and I was just looking through my phone earlier for pictures from that era, obviously with me taking them on the campaign trail, and I found one of her in a garden centre, and to this day I cannot remember why we were in the garden centre, what she was doing there, why it was felt necessary to put Justine in a garden centre on the campaign trail.
Was Ed there as well, or just Justine just on a day off?
I think he was there, but there's no record of him. I was just taking pictures of her, which is obviously how weird this life is.
I think that people do want to hear a bit of who these people are. You know, as much as we do vote for individual MPs and we do vote for parties, we are picking someone to be Prime Minister. And I think people do want to know a bit of the character of the person. I think that sometimes it can possibly get a bit vomit-inducing, as you say. Also, I feel that when politicians wheel out their families too much, it can get a bit irritating. Although I think any point when politicians love to frame stuff as a father, as a mother, and I just think, especially when something bad's happened, they say, oh, there's this awful tragedy with a child. As a father, I think this. And it's like, no, you just think that because you're a human being.
Yes.
It's not because you might feel it more strongly because you're a parent and you can picture yourself in that situation. But it doesn't mean that people without children are thinking, oh, yeah, I'm totally happy for bad things to happen to other kids.
Hooray, bad things are happening because I don't have children. You know, that's a kind of, it's a weird position to take, isn't it, really? I agree with you on that. I think I find it interesting, though, that Keir Starmer it's classic Keir Starmer, isn't it? A halfway house. He hasn't brought out his wife on the campaign trail, but he hasn't kept her completely out of the campaign either. This is classic kind of, a bit meh. We'll do an interview, we'll talk about her, but we won't actually bring her out. And I thought that was quite strange because you're either going to go down that route or you're not. And we saw Boris Johnson clearly did not want his family ever to be in the firing line. So he never,
Wonder why.
Well, there are clearly reasons for that, but he was absolutely resolute in that he just never brought his family into it. And that meant that the press have no reason to then gun for him on any of his personal issues. And I think you have to make that choice as a politician, don't you? Do you put your family front and centre of your campaign, or do you just say it's got nothing to do with you?
And Rishi Sunak taken completely the other tactic. We saw, obviously, his wife introduce him at his party conference, give a gushing speech on how much she loves him, and it's like, well, obviously you're married to him, or maybe not, obviously. But it is a bit bring your wife to work. It's just like, oh, we couldn't find anyone else to introduce you. Oh, we'll play the old wife card.
Well, you know who did that first? Gordon Brown. Sarah Brown introduced him at party conference. I think that was like 2010. And yeah, at the time I thought that was quite an odd move, but clearly Rishi Sunak just thought, let's look to Gordon Brown. He's done it first. Let's go down
also,
that route.
I mean, I'm not being critical here. It is just an observation. But Rishi Sunak does seem to like wheeling out his kids. Any opportunity to put his kids in photos, which we haven't seen from any other Prime Minister. We saw Gordon Brown's when he left Number 10. We saw the kids for the first time when they left, just so they had one photo of them leaving Number 10. We saw Liz Truss's kids that must have been really hard for them as teenagers. Your mum has been Prime Minister for, 49 days? It has not gone very well at all. You're at that difficult stage in life, and then you've got to come out and kind of stand next to your mum in front of the cameras as she's kind of evicted from Downing Street. But Rishi Sunak is the first PM where we've seen his kids a lot while he's in Downing Street. So I think where they went to see the Barbie movie, which is maybe some downtime, which don't involve the public in it, but obviously took a picture for the gram. We've seen loads of them. We saw them wheeled out in the Tory leadership race. And so I think that makes it much more difficult if you're wanting to put in that clear dividing line saying this is private, this is public. I think it's quite wise to Keir Starmer to say, I will mention my kids, but I will never put their names out there in public. I'll never talk to them about them in detail, and that's because they need their own lives away from the cameras.
Yeah, I think Rishi Sunak clearly is a doting father, and he's a family man, and he's got a lovely family, and they're gorgeous, and why not? If that's the route you want to go down, and I think everyone has to make their own individual choice on that, don't they? I know, obviously, we've talked about the 2015 campaign. It's obviously triggering for both of us, John. We spent a lot of time up and down motorways across this country, going nowhere fast, I think, was my experience. But anyway, I remember from that one, Ed Miliband, his wife, Justine, she was brought out on various occasions. And I don't know, but I always got the impression that it wasn't her natural environment. She didn't really seem to be thrilled. And I was just looking through my phone earlier for pictures from that era, obviously with me taking them on the campaign trail. And I found one of her in a garden centre. And to this day, I cannot remember why we were in the garden centre, what she was doing there, why it was felt necessary to put Justine in a garden centre on the campaign trail.
Was Ed there as well, or just Justine just on a day off?
I think he was there, but there's no record of him. I was just taking pictures of her, which is obviously how weird this life is. But anyway, I think it can be difficult for the wives because obviously they want to support their partners, but actually you do put yourself in the firing line. And actually, let's not forget Philip May. I mean, Philip May would go out on the campaign trail with Theresa May, but obviously, and he did that famous boy jobs and girl jobs interview.
That was her fault, not his.
It was his, her fault. That's true. He just had to sit there and smile nicely on the sofa, and it was quite refreshing, maybe, to see a man in that role for once. But it's a tricky one, isn't it?